Okay, this is Diane Moyle, and I am an independent Stampin' Up! Demonstrator, and this is my first video trying to get started on stretching my wings and doing something new, as well as trying to reach out to my customers that are unable to attend my classes. So this card is a floating card front. I got the idea from another demonstrator on the internet, and it was a really cool idea. So the products that I'm using is the Inspiring Iris stamp set. It is photopolymer, so you will need to use a Stampin' Pierce mat and your clear blocks. I'm also using the Stitched Nested Labels dies, and I'm going to be using the second and third largest to create this. I'm going to demonstrate the one with the two-toned iris flower on it. So let's get started. So the pieces that you will need are the Stitched Nested Label pieces cut out of Whisper White and Mango Melody. Again, this is the second and third largest. You're also going to have some strips of the Brights DSP Designer Series paper. These are cut at 5 inches by 1 inches, and you will need 2 of those. This Whisper White cardstock pieces are cut at 5 1/4 by 1 1/4, and you will need 2 of those. You will also have a strip of the Mango Melody. This is at 5 1/2 by 1 1/2. You will need a piece for the inside of the Whisper White cardstock. This is 5 1/4 by 4. And the card base is Mango Melody. It is 5 1/2 by 5 3/4, and it is scored at 4 1/4. And this piece folds over to become the top of the front. You will use your bone folder to create that nice crisp edge for this. Then you will need your strips to start putting this together, and you will use your adhesive to glue these pieces together. The Designer Series paper will go onto the Whisper White strip, and then the Whisper White will go on the Mango Melody strip for the bottom piece. And then I put a little bit too much this way. Should have put it on the white. And then the other ones, once you put these two together, they will go on the top piece that folded over. And if you'd like to make sure that you don't have any glue on your surface, you can always put down a silicone craft sheet to make sure that the glue does not get on your surface. Ran out of glue, so I'm having to grab another one. And then this piece will go right on the top up here. And then you can set these pieces aside for right now. We're going to work on stamping. Again, you will need this Stampin' Pierce mat for getting that nice crisp image. I am going to be stamping the outline of the iris in the Memento Tuxedo Black ink. You can do this without the outline or with the outline. You have many different options. I also turn mine sideways so that I can kind of see all sides to ensure that I get this lined up kind of where I want it, and I can see things on all sides. Then the other images are kind of more of a watercolor type background image. You can use these, you can just use Stampin' Write markers or Stampin' Blends to color them in. I like the kind of image that you get with the background stamps. I'm going to be using the Mango Melody The pumpkin pie will be what I add the accent color, and the garden green I will be using for the stems and leaves. And in order to add color to a stamped image, you'll do that before you stamp it down by putting your inking up your stamp with the lighter color first. In this case, it is the Mango Melody. And then you will add your darker color. I'm using a sponge dauber to add that to those lower petals, the outside edges. And then I just kind of line those up with that outline. It doesn't have to be perfect because it is kind of a watercolor image. And then you'll be using these stamps again for the inside. And I kind of line up that bottom of the flower piece and then the outside of the leaves in order to make sure I get that in the right place or close enough to it. It's supposed to be kind of a watercolory image, so if you don't get it exact, it is okay, and it'll still look really great. Now I'm going to clean off my stamps really quickly. I love the stamp chamois, and I have cut mine in half so that it's easier to handle because my hands are kind of small, and I like being able to get in there and get the ink out of the smaller crevices as well, and it's just easier for me to use that way. And then I'm going to move the inks out of the way so I don't stick my fingers in it. Now you're going to, I'm going to close this one actually. Make sure you don't have the ink all over your fingers because it could transfer over to your images that you've already stamped. So you'll add this layer onto the background layer. The nested dies really make it easy to add that. Then you're going to bring back in these pieces. You're going to line up this bottom strip, the extra one that was there, with the bottom of the card front. And then on this label piece, you're only going to add glue or adhesive to the top portion, and the bottom portion you're going to leave the center part open so that it doesn't have the glue to the back side. Again, make sure that these pieces are lined up. And then you'll place this one wherever you wish. I kind of line it up with that designer series paper, and then the top and the bottom hangs over a little bit, but it was close enough for me. And then I just push the top and bottom down, and then that creates that floating front. Now this inside piece, you'll kind of line that up where you would adhere it down. And with a pencil, you want to make a light mark on each side of your label, and then each side of this window where you're going to have your message showing through. And then you're going to take this part and do some more stamping on this piece. So I'm going to again bring in the outline piece, and I will stamp that again in the Tuxedo Black. And I'm going to put that in this area where that label will cover it. And with the Stampin' Up! Inks, you will have, they're kind of they are dye based, so you will need to kind of just hold them there to make sure that they have time to soak into the paper. Looks like I had a little bit of water on that stamp after I cleaned it, so I'm going to make sure that the all the other stamps are dry. But I think it was going to be hidden enough by this. Again, you stamp this in the lightest color first so that you do not contaminate your lighter ink pad with the darker color, and then you add that darker color with the sponge dauber to get that two-toned image. And then you line that up as good as you can. Again, it's kind of a watercolor image, so it doesn't have to be exact. And then I will do the stems and leaves, ensuring that I get that inked up well. And I will get that lined up there. And then the stamp set comes with some really great sentiments in them. And the one that I am going to use is Sending Hugs, Prayers, and Lots of Love. I think that's a very good, timely message for right now during our time of quarantine. And so I'm going to stamp that over here in this area where it's going to show through the front of the card and also be the message for the inside. So you'll want to let that dry a little bit and soak in. So I'm going to use this time to close my ink pads and clean off my stamps. Give that a little bit of time, because if you go to erase those lines really early and you're smearing it, the ink with your fingers because you're wiping off the eraser waste, then that could smudge your image, and we don't want that, or your sentiment. So and there are those. So you really want to make sure that you have a good eraser and pencil in your toolkit, in your crafts room or whatever, to make sure that you can not have smudged images. I had some pencils that were very old and the erasers didn't erase very well. They would leave a lot of smudges. And so I went and found a lot better eraser. And then you're going to take your snail and you're going to glue this to the inside of your card base. And another thing that I just thought about doing is it's always nice to have a decorated envelope too when you are doing your sending a card to someone. So I'm going to just use the watercolored backgrounds instead of the outline image and just show you what that looks like too. So I'm going to stamp the leaves and stems down here, just doing that. And then again, you're going to want to start with your lighter color. This is the Mango Melody, to ink that up, and then use your sponge dauber to add that pumpkin pie just around the edges of those petals. And then we'll just kind of set these on here. Oh, I see it now. I think. There it is. It just kind of gives a really pretty image for the front of your card. And then that is how simple it is. So my Stampin' Up! Demonstrator website is Diane's Die Cut Divas .stampinup.net, and I am working on trying to establish a blog and website, so just keep checking back with me to get updates of when that will be completed. But until then, you can shop from my Stampin' Up! Site. Again, my name is Diane Moyle, and I hope that you were able to enjoy this video.